So you don't, the blurts in Amazon.com, of course, Amazon's are sellers. Now, however, I want to not be facetious here. The electronic industry has done a lot of bad things, but it's also done some good things. And one of the good things is there are so many reviews, and they do appear to allow a great number of reviews to just come into the scene. So you get good and bad. So generally, you can learn something if you read enough reviews. However, if I published a book, I would probably say, all of you, buy my book and interview it and give me a great plug on internet. So sometimes the first 10 or 15 reviews come from people that are friends of the author or publishers. And they do have, this may surprise some of you, they do have people whose job it is to blurt products. Companies have whole rooms full of people that blurt products. And this is one of the ways you survive on the internet. You hire people to get out and tell everybody that whatever it is you're selling is the best thing that has ever been invented. And these are, of course, false reviews, or they're reviews that have been paid for in a sense. So this book, however, was a bestseller. And if something stays on the bestseller list for a long time, generally you know a lot of people are reading it. But the best reviews come not from the internet, but come from newspapers and resources that deal with books. Wall Street Journal, let's say, even New York Times. You get pretty brutal reviews of books that are very helpful to you. Now, if you have a reviewer, if you follow a particular reviewer, and the reviewer doesn't like the book, he may be a liberal reviewer, and he may be a reviewer that you're very well acquainted of, and if he says it's a bad book, that's a good sign to buy the book. So you learn people in the newspapers. Hope you use the newspapers. So this is a good book, and it does cover, this deals with leadership as an art form. Preaching is an art. Singing is an art. Leadership is an art in the sense that it has certain things about it. Leaders, let's say, just stay on leadership. There's certain things about it that you cannot easily teach. It's like an artist, going back to that. You can show the technique, but there's still an artist that picks up the brush, dips it in the paint or the watercolor, and has the touch. And that is a dynamic. And that dynamic right there is called the art. It's not, I know where to make it, I know how to mix the colors, but it's also just that innate, indescribable thing, the touch. And some people have it, and I can't hear you.
Some people don't.
Some people don't. So sometimes you elect people to an office, you think this guy's going to be a great officer, he's going to be a great person, he's going to be a great leader, and he's a horrible leader. Maybe he's too academic, maybe he's too much given to scholarship, maybe he's a stiff, maybe he's not friendly, maybe he doesn't have the art of leadership. So what you need to do, you say, well, how do I get the art of leadership? Well, when we present, and we're going to deal with this book. And we're going to talk about a lot of things that have to do with philosophy and technique. But it isn't so much that you memorize a book, or you go through a course and you listen to everything that somebody says about a particular course. You pass all the tests, you memorize the material even, whatever. There's still this other thing that's left. And that is whether or not you can bring that truth into your soul, into your heart. And as has been often said around schools, that some things are taught and some things are caught. And you bring it into you. You bring it into your soul. You bring it into your thinking. So, as a preacher preaches to you, I see many people do this now. Now, if you see me taking notes, it's taken me a long time to learn to do this, but I am not writing down what the preacher said. And I don't recommend that you do. You should be writing down what the preacher has made you think. There's a big difference. Now, you can't do that automatically. Sometimes you have to discipline yourself, and sometimes you do write down. Never say never. Sometimes you do write down the fundamental thought. But what did that thought cause you to feel? What did it cause you to think? This is the key element of writing. Not just that I was in New York, but how did I feel about being in New York? I not only saw the tower come down, but how did it make me feel? What was happening around me? Did you know many people have no situational awareness at all? They just can't figure out what's going on. And so you're kind of aware of the change. When that man said something, it was affecting me. It was affecting me. It was changing something in me. And you never know when that is going to come. And you never know from whom it is going to come. That word, that thing, that just, there it is. And you know immediately that you grasp something that's changed a little bit of you. And most of us will, if we make any changes at all, it will be over time. And through a process. Time and process. It won't be immediate. There's not very many really immediate changes. So how change mostly happens is you hear something, you feel something that impacts you. And from there, you begin the process of change because a thought can change you. Can I get a witness? Just one thought can change you. One piece, one little piece of music can change you forever. What is the main piece in Handel's Messiah? The main moment in Handel's Messiah? The Hallelujah Chorus. Did you know that's not the biggest part of the production? Those of you that know music knows that is not the major in terms of time and in terms of the amount of music written in Handel's Messiah. That's a very small part. But usually, if you're in a concert, a formal concert, when people get to that point, the whole audience will stand. Because that piece of music has transformed complete hearts. It's like Beethoven's Fifth. Da, 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 da. It lives in you. Even though that's not a major piece of Beethoven's Fifth. But there it is. Pa, 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 pa. And it just, there it is. And it lives in you. And those things that come alive inside of you like that, they're like seeds. They don't change you immediately, but they begin to grow. Am I making any sense? So now we've reviewed leadership from the standpoint of, say, these three books. And I recommend Leadership Art, because leadership ultimately is an art form. And I recommend this old book, if you can find, by Venice, that recommends, or that deals with the difference between management and leadership. Best thing I ever read on the subject. There's been a lot of books on the subject. This still holds up, even though it's been around for about 25 years or more. And then this published book is by a Christian man, published by a Christian company. So many leaders, so little leadership. Which really deals with the subject that you can be called a leader and not be a leader. And sometimes this will happen in church. The Apostle Paul dealt with this. He said, I'm going to have to get there because some of these people have taken over the church that I did not put in the church to take over the church. And you'll find as you pastor that leadership will be the biggest, not maybe the biggest, but certainly one of the single most stressful aspects of pastoring. And that's because you will have people always in your church who are competing for the minds and the hearts of people, one way or the other. The coffee shop crowd, the anti-holiness crowd, the anti-doctrine crowd, the guys that just think they're the coolest thing since sliced bread crowd, and they're always competing against the leadership structure of the church because they, what is the name of that, what was the name of that group that the Apostle Paul said, they love to have the preeminence among you. Preeminence. Look that up. We should get that verse. That's good. They love to have the preeminence among you. Now, I have taken a lot of time tonight on books. I don't want you to panic. I'm not going to do this every time we meet together. But every night in the class, I'll try to... Would you find this helpful? I should ask you. Find you this helpful just to say, here's a book. Look for it. I am recommending all three of these books. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm holding behind me the book that will change your life. You ready? And this book was recommended to me, and I've given it away, I've stopped giving it away now. Some people laugh when they read it, and other people laugh when they think about it or when they see it, but it will change your life. And here it is. What does it say? Can you read that? Extraordinary what? Extraordinarily. This is Yeah, extraordinary, popular delusions,
and the madness of crowds.
and the madness of crowds. You've read this? I see you shaking your head. You have it?
I also have crowds in power.
Yeah, crowds in power too is another example of similar type of. Did it affect you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes.
Build a whole revival.
You built a whole revival around it. This is not a Christian book. This is not a kind book. This is a book about how people are essentially stupid. And their stupidity is constantly being manipulated in business, in entertainment, in religion. And so, cheap book, been around how long? I think this goes back clear to 1841. So there it is, and take a look at it, and if you haven't read it, try to get it, and you can probably find this in used bookstores. And this will tell you about how people chase black tulips. It tells you about how people chase chain letters, the impact of chain letters, and the effect that they can have on your life. Especially in the electronic age that you live in, you need to read this book. And it will make you feel stupid, probably. And it's easy to start chasing things that are meaningless. And we have much of the techniques in this book going on in churches today. Some men teach these techniques to each other, and some men just have a natural gift to pick it up and to become deceivers. Many deceivers and false prophets. Now let's do a little Q&A and we'll finish up the evening here. So ask me some questions. If you could get an answer to a question, not maybe the biggest, baddest question in the world, but just a question about leadership, what kind of question would you like to ask? What would you like for us to hit in this class? And be as probing in your ideas as you care to be.
Do you think they're born or made?
Are they born or made? All right, that'd be a good thing. So let's talk about whether leaders are born or made.
Is everyone a leader?
Is everyone a leader? All right, that's a good question. This is a big question too, by the way, because there are many people on both sides of that issue. So that'd be a fun question for us to deal with in this class. Anybody else got something on here?
As a leader, how do you know when to actually be a follower as well to somebody that isn't?
Okay, let's frame this like this: the dichotomy between leadership and followership. By the way, I'll recommend a couple great books on followership and its relationship to leadership. And this is a huge psychological question. Very important one too. All right, what else?
How to lead among peers.
How to lead among peers. All right, you got that down? Good.
Why some people are scared to lead.
Very good. Afraid to lead. The fear of leadership. People who potentially could have been great leaders are sometimes afraid to lead. All right, anything else? We'll get a good list here. Well, some of these, by the way, are already covered in this book. You'll see when you get there.
Knowing your place, when to lead, especially as a lady.
Yeah, knowing your place, like leadership. How would we frame that? You know, there's a time when leadership, a person matriculates and kind of comes into his leadership. And when is that? Kind of knowing when to step up and knowing when to step back. Timing of leadership. Many men have been swept into leadership. Many people are worried about this right now in America. There's definitely a vacuum created, not only in America but around the world. We don't really have a country that's leading. China's trying to lead, but China has so many problems that it's a long ways from leadership. 16,000 riots just last year alone in China. Child labor, horrible pollution, corruption at every level. China is a long ways from being a leader nation. And much of their success in the industrial world and in the factories and manufacturing is accomplished through very suppressed labor, including child labor.
How to handle bad leadership.
How to handle bad leadership. We could spend a couple of days on that. That's really a great question. How to handle bad leadership. Ooh, and that's, I have been involved in several situations in the ministry where churches were trying to break free from bad leadership. And yet we've been taught all of our lives to obey our pastors and to be submissive, and that's good. But what do you do when the leader goes bad? It's a bad day, I'll tell you that. All right, what else? Many people get hurt. If you went around today and you could gather up all the backsliders, all across the city of Indianapolis, gather them all up, or any other city, and you would begin to analyze why they backslid, I don't know what the percentage would be, I don't want to guess, but a lot of it, I promise you, will be poor leadership. People that just did not handle them correctly in a time of tragedy or heartache or setback. I hope you don't ask me this question too aggressively, but many times I have failed as a leader.
In a situation like that, how would you be able to repair it, or how would you be able to fix that if someone were to be hurt by leaders? How would you be able to combat that situation?
Well, let's put that on the list, and how do we deal with that? How do we overcome that?
How do you handle leadership that's not willing to invest in someone or future leaders?
Just bad leadership, is that what you mean?
Well, I guess, yeah.
What do you mean by not willing?
Someone like pass down the mantle, like most, like, you hear young pastors say that, or people say they want to, something like that.
Yeah, like the leader's holding other people back in some way?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, because he's not dying, is that it?
Yes, sir.
You want him to die? Get out of your way?
Just invest, not willing to pass the mantle or not
Invest, you got it. It's a great subject, it needs to be covered. I don't want to spend a lot of time with this.
How is that question?
Well, he framed it. How do you get around the lead? How do you deal with a leader that's not investing in the future? In other words, he's planning on living forever, and he's not going to die. And he's 90 years old, and he still won't die. People want him to die. And it's something like that. I don't know exactly how. Is that the way he said? That's the way he meant it.
You caught me off guard. That's not.
Oh, that's right. Not what you meant. Okay. Big question, and of course, it's we've had lots of churches who have lost their mojo. I don't like that phrase, but they've lost their energy because of
delegating. When leaders should delegate.
Yeah, the art of delegation, which is one of the central issues of leadership. That's good. Anything else?
When to empower people by putting hands on, and when to step back and make them stand on.
Yeah, the when to actually, to let go of. You don't want people's talents to be completely controlled by your thinking. So you have to give them the best you've got and then let them go. That's a very tough thing to do. It's tough to let them go, and it's a tough thing to know when to let them go.
Maybe addressing on as far as leadership on how to handle tragedies. A lot of people are going to go on to be pastors. How to deal with deaths, or how to be appropriate in the hospital, or how to.
Yeah, in the context of leadership, he's asking, I think, you can correct me here, how do you comfort as a leader and play the role of, how does the leader play the role, and what does he do in the area of comforting and helping people that have been through tragedies and stuff like that? Is that what you're saying? Not just a pastor, but leaders. So someone said, should everybody be a leader, did somebody put that on the list? Now, we need to really hit that because, God does not call everybody into leadership. But I also want to touch you and help you to understand that in a way, everybody is a leader. Everybody's a leader in a certain context, but not everybody is called to be a bishop. Not everybody's called to be the leader of a corporation or something. There's other forms of leadership besides just being the top guy. Does that make sense? I think everybody ought to be a leader. Have a leadership kind of feeling, in the sense that, let me say this so you're not confused about that, in the sense that you take responsibility for your role. That in and of itself is leadership. That's the first thing a leader does, is take responsibility. I've really not had anything ever happen bad in my ministry or in my life that didn't come back to me. Nothing. You know, there's a lot of reasons why things go bad, but ultimately it comes back to the leader. You make decisions quick enough, or you saw things you didn't act. There's just a lot to that. Anything else you'd like for us to kind of cover in this class, to put on the list? This will help me in taking.
Sometimes I've been around people and myself too, where we feel like if we don't do it ourselves, it's never done right.
Yeah, leaders often are disappointed with the way things are done. So there's this struggle between I either do it myself or I let someone else do it, and it's never quite the way I want it. And that's a dilemma for a lot of people. This is why a lot of people can't lead, because they can't release the task itself.